Koalendro darema tu darayin jiji dru ture nawa namlendru drumayum la cha lo. Om tare ture mama ayur pune jana putin kuruso. Om tare ture mama ayur pune jana putin kuruso.
Welcome, this is Suzanne Toro, and I want to thank you for joining us today. We have special guest Wuda, tea master and author of The Way of Tea. I was fortunate enough to cross Wuda's path this weekend and spend some time learning from him, enjoying the tea, and connecting to its wisdom. Today, he will share his wisdom around the School of Tea and Tao that he has in Taiwan, the Global Tea Hut, the 8 Bowls of Tea, and the 4 Pillars. I hope you'll enjoy this most profound wisdom that has been brought back by 2 beautiful beings to North America via Wuda. Hi, right now I have Wuda with me. He is a beautiful tea master that is here with us in Venice Beach, California. And I want to welcome you and thank you for such a wonderful weekend. You were originally born and raised here in North America.
Yes.
If you can share with our listeners, just to dive into your background, how you made it to Taiwan and remembered a very ancient piece of self that's for this moment in time for all of us.
I don't know. I don't think that I really found my way there as much as it found its way to me. I was always Asian. I studied martial arts my whole childhood, and watched Kung Fu double feature every Saturday. And then immediately after college left and moved to India, and now I've been in Asia 15-20 years, so it's getting close to half life.
Beautiful. And what was the seed that, other than your childhood, because there's a lot of people on the planet right now that are following their soul self to different places on the planet, and oftentimes they don't have a real rational reason to explain it, especially to their family. How could you give our listeners some encouragement to follow that calling that maybe led you?
Well, I studied Eastern philosophy in college, and so I knew long before I went to Asia, I knew I was going to Asia. In fact, I took short trips during summers, and I knew I would go. I was also doing a lot of sadhana, spiritual work, and the next logical step was to move to India and be closer to the source and be where deeper courses were being offered and more work could be done. Joseph Campbell was a really influential author to me in college, and he always, said in his life, follow your bliss. I think that's really important. Life's short and time is sweet, and the medicine's in the time.
And you said something really beautiful today about treating every moment as if that's our one moment in eternity together. Could you expound upon that? And that was just struck me that if we could all show up in every moment as if it is, not as if, but it is that moment in eternity together.
Yeah, in tea we have a very important principle. It's in Chinese icha ihui, and in Japanese ichiko ichi, and it means one encounter, one chance. And the idea is that even if you and I get together and use the same teaware and tea and water and drink tea every day at the same time, it's still, the tea is unique every time. And so are we, as we change all the time. And so it's about meeting people for the first time every time. It's about recognizing the eternal echoes of this moment, and about being fully in it, and respecting or even revering the smallest of meetings with people, and the chance, that one chance at connection. Because even if you have a relationship with a person and you see them daily, you're actually not seeing them daily. This moment's the moment. This is your one chance to say what you need to say. This is your one chance to connect. Because, tomorrow we die, and even otherwise, it's not the same us.
Which leads into impermanence. So within tea, how has tea taught you further about impermanence and its beauty?
Well, the tea itself is such an amazing flow, and the flow from the kettle to the pot to the cup into me, the flow of nature from the mountain to the tree to the leaf, from the sun to the mountain to the leaf, from the moon to the mountain to the leaf, and the changes in tea over time as it ages, the changes in tea from pot to pot, cup to cup, the changes in me as I drink it from pot to pot and cup to cup, the changes that are so subtle even in a single sip, and a lot of living tea has within it chi, which is life force or energy, and it's very difficult to talk about these things because we say chashi, and we talk about the chachi and the chi and the tea as though it's the chi and the tea, but it's really hard to say, because when I drink the tea and I experience that chachi, it's almost impossible to say how much of that is from the tea and how much is from me. So is it that the tea is giving me chi, or is it that the tea is causing my chi to move and now I can feel it, whereas I couldn't before, or is it some combination of both? But the borders between outside and inside have been washed away, and the chi, when the chi moves, then you feel the subtle sensations in your body, the chi, the energy of your body, or the energy of the tea flowing through you, whichever way you want to look at it, or both. That flow through your body is very akin to a lot of the Buddhist meditation techniques like Vipassana, that are also founded on one of the Buddha's most magical words that he actually created, which is sampajana. And sampajana means constant, thorough experience of impermanence. And it takes its roots etymologically from a word for fire, to burn. So it's like you're consumed, you're burning, but also it has within it the connotation of like constant, the constant consumed recognition of the impermanence of all things.
And with that energy and understanding in a society where we oftentimes can cling to things rather than interact or relate to them, how could you help the listener, especially one that's in a fast-moving Western world, much like Venice Beach, with embracing impermanence so they can flow versus holding on to something that's already passed?
Well, first it's important to remember that letting go takes no energy. It's holding on that takes energy. It's difficult to hold on to something. It's easy to let go. Letting go is really easy. And the moment you let go, the first feeling is, relief. And the second feeling is, man, that was stupid. And there was no need for that. It was the silly, that thing I was holding on to. There's a lot of conflict, I think, in the world, especially in the East, with regards to renunciation and what it means and what it's about. And it's often misinterpreted to be what actually is repression. So you get this kind of idea of, I met this amazing monk, and how amazing. so amazing that when a woman comes in the room, he looks at the ground. He doesn't even look at them. He's so detached, you know. But the real word is closer to non-attachment, and it's about seeing through illusion. And once you see through illusion, you automatically let go. True renunciation is like the way that you stop playing with your toys when you were a child. Nobody told you to do it. You just stopped because you saw through the illusion of the game. Some people don't. They just change the toys. They continue that game. But there's nothing you have to do other than see the truth of the matter. You know, for example, a master doesn't reject beauty. You can see the beauty of some flowers or a teapot. It's gorgeous, this teapot, but the master doesn't have the second thought, which is this: I want it. It's mine. It's my teapot. I want it. I want to take it home. I want to own it. So doesn't mean you can't appreciate beauty. It just means that second thought is not there, because the second thought, that thought of possession, is based on illusion. Because we don't own anything. We don't even own our skin. We don't own this body. How could we own any possessions? You can't. There's nothing. Where are you going to take them? They just become someone else's mess one day to clean up. So, once you see through that, it's liberating, and you don't need to. You don't need to possess things. And then, coincidentally, when you don't have that second thought, you can actually appreciate the beauty of the teapot even more. When you don't have that second thought of I want to own the teapot is that much more beautiful, because you're respecting its life, the life in it, the living energy in it, and that's in all things. And then its beauty is even more radiant. And then sometimes these things that we call objects, we call nouns, which aren't really things, they're energy. Even our science is saying this, and then they will start to teach you things.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Yesterday I really appreciated your story of the gentleman coming to the master and throwing his keys down and his shoes down, and the master asking him to go back and ask for forgiveness. If you can share how that teaching is so important for all of us, maybe to contemplate our words, our thoughts, our actions, and what anger actually does to our spirit.
Yeah. Well, the story is that the man went to see a fakir, and on the way he got in a bunch of traffic or whatever, and the journey was terrible, and by the time he got there he was real angry, and so he threw down his shoes and slammed the door and, threw down his keys. It's a wonderful addition. Beautiful. And the fakir said, you before I teach you, go apologize to those keys and that door and those shoes. And he said, well, that's silly. Those are just stupid objects. And he said, well, if you respect them enough to put your anger on them, if you respect their beingness enough to put your anger on them, then you respect their beingness enough to apologize. And then there's a kind of, when you begin to see the life in all things, you begin to have a relationship with everything and stop using things. And we have that sickness right now: use and discard, use and discard, use and discard, and big piles of discarded stuff. And we've moved up recently, consciousness, a little bit, because we're reusing and discarding and reusing and discarding. But we need to get out of that and respect, I can remember when my great-grandfather passed away. It was so amazing. In his closet, we found that from middle age, like 25, 30 years old, until he died when he was 89, he had only 2 pairs of shoes. Casual and formal, and house slippers. And one reason is because they were made better, with respect, by a cobbler who could then fix them and resole them and take care of them. But the other reason why they last so long is because right next to him in the closet he had a shoebox full of shoe horns and polishes, and he polished them every day, and he put shoe horns in them, and he took care of them, and that's respect. And when you begin to relate to things and animals and people, and stop objectifying, you find real connection and harmony and insight into the nature of things.
Yeah, definitely. It reminded me of when I was a little girl and I had a lot of stuffed animals and I could see, well, I still can, but could talk and see the spirits. And my father used to yell at me because I would lay them all out perfectly on the bed and I would sleep on the very edge because all my friends, that was their bed, was those animals. He could not understand it, but it made perfect sense. And sometimes I would sleep on the floor so they could have the bed.
Yes.
So I appreciated hearing that story.
Yes, a lot of people have experience of like handing a. I was a kindergarten teacher for a while, so I know. And you can sometimes hand a toy or an object to a little child, and the toy maker was an adult, but the child picks up on its like energy or whatever immediately and uses it in another way.
Yep.
Like, and it's often the right way. So I imagine that any of the big toy companies, they must have some kind of research department with real children, because
Yeah.
an adult just can't do it. Most adults anyway.
Yeah. So T, you also being in your presence, saying that the sutras are in the leaves, really hit my heart deeply yesterday, and how we have attachments to all these ancient scriptures and maybe memories of participating with them that have caused many souls maybe some pain. And so then I was going, wow, you're carrying this beautiful vessel to deliver the sutras in their purity back to humanity. If you can share what you've created there at the school and talk about the 8 bowls of tea.
Sure. Well, I honestly believe that tea is just an amazing plant that was given us by the divine, by God, and it speaks from out of the mountain, and inside those leaves is sun and moon and a language all its own, and it has a tremendous amount to say. It has a tremendous amount to teach us, and it's a timeless, ageless teaching. So it's sutras written in the veins of a leaf. It's timeless, and a lot of the great teachings in the world are kind of culturally specific, and they're also specific to certain time. So when you translate the teachings of the Buddha from Magdi to this language, to that language, to English, and you translate 500 BC to 2012, there's just some things are lost in translation. There's definitely still insights there. And also, a Muslim, a Christian, a Hindu, and a Buddhist in a room, like if they talk about their prophecies and their revelations and their understandings of the cosmos, they'll probably end up arguing. But if they drink tea, they might end up hugging. So it's a very simple, there's nothing to argue about, there's no philosophy. It's a non-verbal communication of nature's wisdom. And so it's an entheogen, it's a plant that speaks the language of God, and in a non-verbal form. That's unique to every person. So when you go around the room and people share their experiences drinking a tea, they're all incredibly different because it's the relationship between the plant and the person. And this plant in particular is so much a part of us. It reached out, one of the origin myths of tea is that it fell into the boiling water of a legendary emperor, and he drank it and discovered tea. And the meaning of that is that it was reaching out, it wanted to be human. It wanted to embrace us, and it's the second most consumed beverage in the world. It's been such a part of our history and a part of our makeup that it's very much spans the human spectrum. You can find everything from greed and corruption and environmental destruction all the way to the highest of spiritual heights in the world of tea. And I honestly believe that our physical body and our spiritual self both have receptors for it, and it has receptors for us. That's what the story is meaning, is that it was reaching out for us because it has receptors for us. That is the reaching out, the evolution of those receptors towards humanity. And then as we've established a relationship with it, we've developed receptors to communicate with it. And when you've drunk a living tea, as you have got to do over this weekend, you just know. And So perhaps you could share a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Well, yeah, that was the next thing I was going to share, because it was about December that Colin sent out a email about the teas being here, and I was curious, and I wanted to bring some to my mother because my brother and I are definitely from Asia, and so I brought her some for holiday, and I started drinking then, and immediately noticed it working with my physical body, my spirit body, my mental body. And I don't even know if I can go back drinking. I don't even know what I've been drinking that I've been calling tea. It's astounding and how healing it is. And even my mother now every afternoon is in a practice of drinking the tea, as I told you, and taking the leaves out to the medicine wheel. So it's, brought amazing joy and love just into our family already. And my daughter even got to sit here with Colin, and she really enjoyed the experience too.
That's amazing. And as for our center, it's we're a nonprofit school. We do a lot of classes. We have residences. We have people coming from all over the world to stay and learn about tea and the way of tea, the Tao of tea, and also a very strong local community. And for us, tea isn't just about the drinking of tea as a beverage or as deliciousness or sensuality. There's a lot more to it. This is a way. It's a Tao. It doesn't have to be that for everyone. Tea will be what you want it to be. It can be a beverage. It can be some peace of mind. It can be some physical medicine. It can be spiritual heights. And so we live a life of tea. And in this life of tea, we practice what we call the 8 bowls, which is 8 aspects of this life. The first is skillful means, moral uprightness, which is really simple. Perform wholesome deeds and don't perform unwholesome deeds. Our tradition is very open, so we're not dogmatic. The future of this world, I think, is free of dogma, and so we keep it really simple. I really love St. Augustine said, love and do what thy will. And that's kind of says it all. And the second is a mastered mind, which is meditation. We practice and teach meditation in our center. We have a very strong meditation. And again, it's not about one system. It's about whatever works for you. But without a mastered mind, you can't be moral anyway, because you just, you lose control. There's a famous old Zen story. This man riding down the road really fast on a horse, and the monk is working in the garden, and he looks up and says, "Where are you going so fast?" And the man says, "I don't know, ask the horse." And that horse is our mind.
Yep.
So a mastered mind is really important. Third then is study, contemplation, and prayer. So that can mean everything from just reading spiritual works, sutras, learning about tea. Prayer is really important for humility and connection to the divinity all around us. Prayers of forgiveness, prayers of gratitude. One of the best spiritual practices I have, and it's responsible for a huge percentage of my growth, is that for the last about 18 years I've spent 10 minutes of every morning after my meditation. I do 10 minutes of gratitude and feel blessed for all the wonderful blessings that I'm surrounded with. You wake up frumping and angry about something, and I gotta go to work today and all that, and you don't realize that just your red shower curtain would be enough for a blind person. They'd chop off a finger for it, and they wouldn't be frumping and grumping. They would be like, red, red,
Yeah.
And that's our state that we should be in, that kind of joy. That's our natural state. That's our true self. So the next is cleanliness and purity. Cleanliness is a huge part of tea, both outer and inner. So we just clean the center and clean it and clean it and clean it. Keep it really clean so that everyone comes in, they feel it's a space that's pure. Pure literally. And then internal purity also, of course. Next is physical well-being, as diet and movement. So we practice healthy diet and Tai Chi and Qigong, yoga, these kinds of things. We keep your body loose. And then next is community, work and service. So we go out and serve free tea. We come here and across the world to teach. We do a lot of sharing, mostly to do with tea. But it's about participation and connection, because we're all really in one tradition, and it's the tradition of the earth. And we have to connect. We have to participate. We have no choice but to take responsibility.
Right.
And so it's really ignoble to fail to take responsibility for everything, for the whole universe, and to not work and use this wonderful human body that you've got to not just shake your fist at the sky, but to live with a little bit of grace and dignity and the loving kindness of a Buddha. And then the final two are two different methods of tea brewing that we practice, amongst others, but primarily these two. One is what we call bowl tea, and it's about just reducing tea to just leaves and water and kind of connecting to the spirit of tea, what we've been talking to up to now, about connecting to nature through this wonderful plant and to ourselves. And then the second is called gongfu tea, which you got to see today, which is about grace and beauty and refinement and sensitivity and skill. Gongfu, the very word, means skill. It means mastery. So mastering the self, mastering the art of tea. And my master always says, if you want to learn to brew tea, you've got to first learn how to be a person. And there's a wonderful story in China is the to do with calligraphy. It's this student asked the master, how do I paint a beautiful scroll? And he said, you perfect yourself and paint naturally. And it's the same for tea. If you want to learn to brew tea properly, you just perfect yourself and brew tea naturally.
And what was, during your journey thus far, one of those moments that was pivotal, whether it was gratitude or humility, that really kind of put you in a different place?
I did a lot of sadhana in India and became a lover of silence. I often talk about that the love of silence is better than the silence, just like the love of kindness is better than kindness. And being a lover of silence means you want to spend your free time in silence, and you want to empty so that you can be full again. And most people want to be full so they can be full again, and it just doesn't work. Things get cluttered.
Yeah.
Quite obviously.
Definitely feel lighter with less stuff, inner and outer. Can you share the 4 pillars that you've shared with me this weekend?
Yeah, our tradition has 4 pillars that have held it up, that are the roots of it. And it's really amazing. I honestly feel that not only is this tradition the most powerful tea tradition alive now, but it might be the most powerful ever, because it kind of includes all of them, and because we have something for everyone. It's not a cult. There's no exclusion. You come and you might only what you take from this tradition is just a one bowl of tea and a few minutes of quiet. We set up often in parks and at organic markets, and people come and sit and drink one bowl of tea in quiet, and they often wonder, what are you selling? What are you pitching? Are you a religious group? What do you got? Some philosophy? No, we got a warm smile and a bowl of tea and a little bit of present space in a little bit of calmness in a stormy world. And if you want just that, fine. If you want more, fine. If you want to start giving instead of taking, fine. But if there's no one taking, then who do we serve?
Right.
So it's kind of there for everyone. But the 4 pillars, the first is, of course, nature itself, the Tao, the forest, the tree. This is the pillar that it's most difficult to articulate, because it represents all of the sun and moon and stars and all the things that are in tea that speak to us, because they're in us, because they're communicating, they're going both ways, they're meeting in the middle. And that's all about what all spirituality is about allowing, about, you take a step and the divinity takes a step and you meet in the middle, kind of. And the second pillar is the tradition of shamans and Taoist hermits that haunted China for thousands of years in all the mountains and caves and trees, and they were tea doctors. They were very in tune with this plant and other plants, and at that time tea was all wild trees that were sought out, and certain trees had certain majesty, certain medicine, and that's a pillar of magic and ruins and shamanism and healing, and a lot to do with that bowl tea that we just spoke of. And the third pillar, of course, is Zen, which has a huge relationship with tea. I just finished a book about this. There's a saying in China that it's Cha Chan Yi Wei, means tea and Zen are one flavor. And historically, we can confirm the importance of tea, because when the Japanese came to mainland China to bring back Buddhist scriptures, whether they went north, south, east, or west, they came back also with tea and tea seeds, and even wrote some books and treatises on tea to explain why they had gone to get Buddhist sutras and come back also with this plant. And it was because, they are carved in some of the walls where if you don't understand tea, you don't understand Zen. If you don't understand Zen, you don't understand tea. They were part of each other for so long. The Zen monks kind of got it from those Taoist sages, and they were the first to domesticate the plant. They were the first to, on any kind of large scale anyway. And all the tea mountains in China today still have Zen monasteries in them. Unfortunately, a lot of that was lost in China, but preserved in Korea and Japan. And it was transmitted to us through a wonderful master in Japan who's now gone. And the final pillar then is in the south of China, about 300 years ago, martial arts masters developed a kind of way of relating to tea called Kung Fu tea. You often use Kung Fu to refer to martial arts, but the word actually means, as I said, skill and mastery. In Chinese, people usually say Wushu to speak about martial arts instead of Kung Fu, but you can say Kung Fu as well. And so they built that tradition based on the aesthetics and the principles of martial arts, of grace and fluidity and elegance and movement and non-resistance, and allowing the force to move you rather than you moving the force, using the power of the thing and going with it, all these kinds of principles, finishing in one breath, and things like this. So, and we received transmission of this from, my master's still alive. He's a Chinese man, and he's preserved a lot of these internal and external principles of this traditional Gong Fu tea have been lost in a lot of places, and he's preserved them. You can still see a lot of the externals here and there, but he's kind of preserved both the internal and the external, which is amazing.
Beautiful. And if people would like to come see you, what's the best way to connect
Absolutely.
with you?
Everybody's welcome. Our center's open. We have residents, so if you find yourself in Taiwan and you're interested in learning about tea, you're welcome. And we recently started a program called Global Tea Hut, and it's a way for people to participate and for the energy to go both ways. So you can subscribe to a year of donations, and every month we're going to give you send you a tea that was stored in our center for the previous month, and it will also include a newsletter that will describe that tea and why it's important, and maybe some articles about the way of tea, and also maybe an article or two about what we're doing during that month. And so it's a way for you to participate from anywhere in the world. And there's teas, because our center has some good juju, some good energy, and so there'll be medicinal value in the tea that sat there for a month in the altar, and you'll be connected. And at any time, we are forming a global tea hut, because at any time, think of those bowls that are being raised all over the world. I have students in Russia and Europe and America, and it'll be great, that people will be drinking the same tea all over the world. So it's kind of like one tea session ongoing for the whole month. It's really great.
which is beautiful. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a gentleman named Satish Kumar. He walked from India to the U.S., took a boat across the ocean during the nuclear age in the 60s, and they were doing a walk for peace. But a woman came out of a tea factory and asked him to take 4 packets of tea to the world leaders of those countries and asked them to convey the message before they push any buttons that they would all sit down and have a cup of tea.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So when I was hearing of the Global Tea Hut, I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. So I'm going to write Satish and say, let's get on the movement with this beautiful, because I really do feel like you're holding the sutras of tomorrow, reconnecting us to nature, because we've had such a disconnect from ourselves, which is embedded in nature.
Yes, and I have a book called Way of Tea,
Yes.
and there's a chapter in it called Disconnect to Connect. So that's what made it come up, and you can get that also anywhere, any bookstore. And we also have a free online magazine. It's one of the things that we do. It's called The Leaf, and there's a hyphen between the and leaf, the-leaf.org.
Okay.
And there's about 8 issues, I think, now, and maybe 7 to 10 articles in each issue, so tons of free information for the download. And it's paper free though, so you gotta kind of read it on your
Eye apparatus.
eye apparatus.
Your third eye, preferably. Telepathic transmission
Yes.
from Taiwan. So to wrap up, because we have people waiting, we're going to have a bowl of tea. Otherwise, I would sit here and make them talk to me for a couple more hours. But we'll save that for maybe when I visit the center.
Absolutely.
Can you share the goddess? Because you shared a beautiful story this morning about the statue of Kuan Yin, who is also connected to Tara, the emanation of Tara. And Atisha had brought Tara to Tibet. And as you talked about her, Kuan Yin, you know, maybe they're all the same name, really. If you can share the energy that she delivers to you, and it feels very much that she's from that region.
Yeah. Guan Yin to me is, Guan Yin is Avalokiteshvara. She's the Dalai Lama. It's kind of originally that being was kind of hermaphroditic, and the early like Tang dynasties ones even had like mustaches, and then she became slowly more and more female. But what she represents to me is compassion. And the best definition I've ever heard for compassion came from, of course, from the Buddha, and he said it's love plus meditation. And that's just perfect, you know. It's pure love, the crystal clear love, the love that is unconditional, that you don't have to be or say or do anything for me to love you in this moment. I just love you just as you are. You don't have to, because when we say, you know, do this or do that and then I'll love you, or even imagine someone other than they are, then first of all, that imaginary you that I'm reaching out towards isn't real. Right. And I'm skipping over this moment and this love and this grace right here, and I'm and also that imaginary you of the future that's without some defilement usually, or whatever it is imperfect. It's incomplete because we can't imagine it in its entirety. It's too rich, right? It's too real. It's too rich. We can't imagine all the smells and the shades of color. There's like 10,000 shades of green in a single tree. How could you possibly imagine that?
Right.
You can look at it now, but you can't imagine it.
Right.
No, just like you can't remember it either, not in its entirety. If you try to really tell these people what's happened to you this weekend, you could speak until doomsday, and you wouldn't ever get at the richness of even one of the moments.
Right.
How would you describe all the colors, all the sensations, all the internal and external? You just can't. And so it's that kind of unconditional love, the love of service. And what it is really is recognizing self and other as one. I cease blaming, and I cease trying to enhance myself, and I realize true service. You know, I once heard a really great story from Japan. Is put an ego in your left hand and an ego in your right hand, and then somebody keeps giving you money and they keep putting it in your left hand, and the right hand gets angry. He's getting all the money. And the right hand gets trapped in the charcoal as I'm making tea. And the left hand says, I don't know if I want to help that guy out. It's dangerous. I might also get burned, right? But the moment the two realize they're one body, then it doesn't matter. You put money in the left hand. The right hand knows that money's mine too. the right hand's in the charcoal, the left hand immediately pulls it out because they're one body. So that's what Guan Yin is to me.
Well
And
said.
and then of course there are non-physical beings, you know, and sometimes some of them can inhabit statues or just hang about a place where there's prayer going on.
Yeah. Beautiful. And one last thing that I think would be really, I'm hearing as you said that, to share with the listeners, because you said it so eloquently. You said, I don't want you to want me. I want you to want me. I think that's how you said it.
Oh, you
Not
mean
like
participation, you mean?
Yes, participation, and
Yeah,
how
well-
important. I think that's such a beautiful piece of wisdom. Or even in our economic society the way it is, I don't want you to want.
I don't want you to do it. I want you
Yeah.
to want to do it.
Yep.
But that's, you know, first of all, there's no understanding of anything without involvement. You can't learn to swim by reading books about it.
Yeah.
You have to get in the water. So you can't understand anything truly until you get involved in it. You have to participate. So there's the two greatest gifts of the teacher, the two greatest gifts of the master. The first is participation, and participation in something outside of the sphere of you, greater than you, greater than even the total of the master and the student, greater than both of us. A chance to participate in something big, to participate in something selfless, to participate in something that leads to your own growth, and understanding, and in this case, mastery of tea. The second gift of the teacher is criticism, because you can participate until the end of time, and if no one criticizes you, you won't improve. You'll just keep repeating your mistakes.
Right.
So these are really important aspects, and you know, yeah, and it has to come from within. So it's not a shirt you could put on. If there was an enlightenment shirt, you know, the Buddha would have made them and give them to everybody, and we'd all have them, right? It's not something you can. It's the secret of the universe. Isn't something you can carry around in your pocket. You've got to participate in this life, and so, you know, I always tell my students, I don't want you to give money. I want you to want to give money. I don't want you to serve. I want you to want to serve, and it's a very different thing. Just like earlier I mentioned, it's very different. Silence and loving silence. The love for silence is deeper than silence, because the love for silence means that even in times of noise, you still love silence, and that given the chance, you'll always choose it, you know. And so, wanting to give means you want to give, and that gift is great. Giving just because you think it's the thing to do, the energy behind it's not right, you know.
Right. Exactly. Well, you're a treasure,
Thank
and
you.
I'm glad you
As
made
are
your
you.
way this way, and I can't wait to make it your way. And I would have to say to the listeners that tea, the way of tea, is a beautiful way to start dabbling in your inner wisdom. So,
Absolutely. And
Thank
welcome to Taiwan.
Thank
Anyone
you.
and everyone.
well, thank you for taking the time.
You're
I'll
welcome.
be signing out.
May.
Well, thank you once again. That was Buddha with the Way of Tea and Tao, the institute that's located in Taiwan. You can connect to the Global Tea Hut at globalteahut.org. And if you're interested in connecting with the institute, feel free to send them an email at info@tsagehut.org. Once again, thank you for listening in, and until next time, this is Suzanne signing out with a deep bow, a soft gaze, and a full heart. Namaste.
We feel it all. We come from the light, and to it we shall return. We are the one, and in this truth we live, here and now upon the earth. This is our home, and when you call our name, your ancient wisdom awakens our own. The time is now to go beyond what has been, what is We have a choice to walk in a good way, make new decisions, pray for peace within us soul. We can find strength. Together we rise and face the wind. We awaken when we listen to Earth's call. Don't sleep tonight. We have 1,000 songs to sing. These ancient songs, they lift us out of suffering. Come dance with me, for there is only one prayer. Truth is all, no end and no beginning. I'm sorry, forgive me. I offer this healing. I love you and thank you, Amen. I'm sorry, forgive me. An open heart I bring. I love you and thank you, Amen. I'm sorry, forgive me. I offer this healing. I love you and thank you, Amen. I'm sorry, forgive me. An open heart I bring. I love you and thank you, Amen. Oh, Great Spirit, creator of all things, of the west and the thunder, of the east and the sun. In the north, the shining elders, and the south, our mother's womb. To those above and below us, to the seen and unseen, those who have walked before and after, we ask your assistance to live simply. Please forgive us, for we know not what we do, and we thank you for all you help us through.